Hey, what's up everybody? It's David McGill, and today's video I'm finally taking the time to answer one of the most popular questions that I'm seeing in my email and also in some of the comments of my videos. Now that question is now a good time to get into trucking? Now, I'm sure that question is coming from, there's probably other videos where people are talking about, the trucking in the current state of the trucking industry. And, a lot of people are, watching the news, watching YouTube videos, and their number one question seems to be, should I get involved in trucking right now? Now, it seems like the people who ask this question, they are looking for a straight answer in terms of yes, go ahead, get started in trucking, or no, stay away. But the truth of the matter is there is no straight answer. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain the different things to consider, and also some of my thoughts on just economics and looking at industries and deciding if it's a good time or a bad time to get into an industry, and also looking at ourselves to see if we're equipped to enter into a certain industry at any particular time. So this video may be a little long because I'm gonna give some backstory on a few different things to where it's gonna hopefully help bring my point home of what I'm trying to make in terms of should you get into the trucking industry. Now, before I talk specifically about the trucking industry, I'm gonna bring y'all back to 2008. And if you remember this time, this was about 11 years ago, but the economy, we were in a recession. The housing market, it had crashed. The stock market, it crashed, and a lot of people lost their homes, and a lot of people lost their retirement savings that they had invested in the stock market. The masses would say that hey, that was a terrible time for the economy, and they'd be correct, because on a macro level, yes, things were pretty bad. Now, I just told you that a lot of people lost their homes, and also their retirement savings, and any other money that they had invested in the stock market. However, there were a certain group of people who they made a lot of money during that time as well. Now, I just told you that there were a lot of people who lost their homes, and also lost their retirement savings and any other money that they had tied up into the stock market. But there were a certain group of people who also made a lot of money during that same time. Now, what was the difference between the people who lost a lot of money and the people who made a lot of money? The thing was education. And what I mean by education is, as a real estate investor at that time, or I'll say any type of investor, like if you're when do you want to buy something? Do you want to buy it when the price is low or when the price is high? Now, the obvious answer is you want to buy when prices are low. Now, I just told you that a lot of people lost their homes in 2008 during the market, during the recession. Now, what that did was a lot of banks were now holding on to inventory that they had to sell at discounted prices, just to move the inventory. Banks don't make money off of holding real estate. So investors at that time, it was like clearance. It was like, going to a flea market. Investors who had prepared for this time, they could go in and, negotiate with these banks. And it was basically like, a clearance sale on properties. So the values of the homes fell, so the prices fell, the supply of homes exploded. There were a lot because the banks took them, had to take them back from the homeowners. So that meant the prices fell. So with lower prices, the real estate investors, they were able to go in and just, buy homes in bulk and sit on them, because they knew that, hey, the market is going to get better. And when it does, they're gonna have a ton of equity in the house if they bought it super cheap. Now, let's use that same concept in theory to the stock market. So when the stock market crashes, when prices start going down in the stock market, a lot of people who hold stock, they'll start to sell, because they're like, oh man, I'm losing money, so let me go ahead and start dumping my portfolio before I lose everything. Now, there are professional stock investors or stock traders who, when the prices of stock go down, they double down. They buy even more stock, because if you can buy stock for $10 and the price suddenly goes down to $5, a lot of people panic, a lot of people start selling. Well, that same person who bought the first stock for $10, he or she can now buy 2 shares of stock for the same $10, so they can grow their portfolio. So the thought is, just like in the real estate market, when the market gets better and the prices of these shares of stock start to increase, now they have a lot more shares that are going to hold a lot more value. So they're doubling their net worth rather quickly. Now, how are they able to do this? Is because these people study the stock market. They also study the real estate market. They study the economy. So they have a very specialized knowledge and education. Now, how does that relate to the trucking industry? Well, back in 2018, so a year ago, it wasn't difficult at all to make money in the trucking industry. Like, freight rates were great in 2018. It was actually one of the best years in the trucking industry in a long time. Now, 2019 rolls around, and a lot of the freight rates dropped. There's some different things happening, with the government, to where things do affect just the economics of the trucking industry. Now, there are still people who are making money in 2019 in the trucking industry. These are the same people, or they would be in the same category as the people who made money in the stock market in 2008, or the people who made money in the housing market in 2008. They're the people in trucking who understand the market, and they plan their business accordingly. They're flexible. They can adapt to market changes rather quickly. A lot of the big carriers, a lot of these mega carriers that you're seeing going out of business, oftentimes what's happening is these companies are so big that you're not as flexible. You can't move as easily. So when there is a change in the market, it's very difficult to move, to change the direction of 100 trucks in your company or 200 trucks in your company. However, if you're, a small company, 1 truck or, a small fleet, it's not as difficult for you to, navigate through, through the market in the trucking industry when their market changes. Now, let's go back to real estate for a second. So prior to 2008, people were flipping houses and making, a ton of money in real estate. Now, the people who were flipping houses, like, they were inexperienced, and then there were also people who were experienced prior to 2008. I don't know if you guys, remember any of these shows, but there was all kind of like flip this house, flip that house, flip my garage. There was all kind of shows where people were making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in certain parts of the country flipping houses. Now, what that did was, you know, it inspired and motivated, you know, more people to go out and start flipping houses. And what happened was, you know, because the market was just so crazy, we were in a bubble. Because the market was so crazy, it was difficult not to make money in the real estate market at that time. So what that means is you could be somebody who, you know, heard about somebody making money in real estate, and you go out, you find a house, you buy a house. You didn't have to have, you know, much construction experience, remodeling experience, anything like that. You could buy a house, you know, paint it, put carpet in it, and sell it and make money, you know. And what that did was it gave people, you know, a false sense of, you know, experience when it came to the real estate market. So, because you have all these inexperienced people who are making money, and, you know, everybody thinks it's because of them, but it was really because of the housing market, the bubble at the time. In 2009, you weren't flipping the house and making money if you didn't know what you were doing. Like you couldn't get lucky in the real estate market in 2009. You had to be smart, you had to be knowledgeable about the industry, and you had to understand what was going on. That's the same correlation I'm going to make to the 2019 in the trucking industry. In 2019, you're not going to get lucky and just stumble into, you know, great paying freight, or, you know, an awesome dedicated lane or anything like that. It's gonna, you're gonna make money in 2019 if you're somebody who understands the trucking industry, and also, you know, economics, supply and demand, you know, how to analyze good paying freight and distinguish it from bad paying freight. So going back to the original question, is now a good time to get into the trucking industry? I'd say if you're somebody who isn't educated, it's a terrible time to get in the trucking industry. You can lose everything because you're gonna put your money into something that you don't quite understand. And that's never a position you wanna be in, where, you know, you're investing in things that you don't fully understand. Now, if you are somebody who understands how the economy works, you know, how to analyze freight, you know, you've planned out your business and things like that, then this could be a good time to get into trucking. I'll give you an example of, there's a client that, you know, I picked up this year at tax time. It's a trucking business, a small trucking business. Now, when we first met, the gentleman, he was driving a certain truck, and when we met, one of the things he wanted to sit down and go over was a lease versus buy analysis, where, you know, he was looking at getting another truck, and he wanted to make sure that he was making the right decision when it came to, he wanted to weigh the pros and cons of leasing versus buying to see which was going to make the most sense for his situation. Now, that was just kind of like a side project. You know, the main thing that we needed to get done was, you know, getting his tax return filed. So the main thing that we had to get done for him was getting his tax returns done. Now, after we got done doing his tax returns, he was telling me that he was looking into getting a new truck, and the truck that he was interested in, it was about $130,000 or $40,000 or so, brand new. Now, he called me maybe a month later for another meeting, you know, so he came by my office and we were talking, and during that conversation, he brought up the fact that he was actually working on applying for a loan through his bank to buy a different truck. So, you know, he gave me the information on that one, and it was, I want to say it's like a 2018 or 17, whatever it is. It's a very new truck, and it's used, but it's only gently used. And he could get this truck for about $80,000. Now, the reason he could get the truck so cheap compared to its new price was because during 2018, when the industry was crazy, there was a carrier who went out and bought a bunch of trucks, had them built, spec'd out, everything like that. Well, in 2019, when the market wasn't as good, they had to start sending trucks back. So now the dealer, they're sitting on these trucks that they're looking to move. So it created a good opportunity and a good deal for my client to buy this truck. Now, I think of that as, I compare that to the example I mentioned earlier about the real estate, where, when things crashed for certain people, it created opportunities for investors who were looking, to increase their portfolio at bargain prices. So my trucking client, he was essentially able to get, close to a, 40 to 50% discount on this truck. He was able to get such a discount on his truck because he understood the market, and he was able to benefit from some of the negative impacts that other companies had faced. So again, if the question is posed to me, is now a good time to get into the trucking industry? My answer is yes, if you know what you're doing, if you're educated, if you understand the market. The answer is no, if you aren't somebody who understands the market, you're new to trucking, and you're looking at just kind of starting a new business and learning things from day one. I'd say it's not a good time to do that. So what should you be doing? If you are interested in starting a trucking business, I think, but you don't have the education, I think right now is the time that you should be researching, planning, putting your energy into learning the market, learning the industry, running your numbers, learning profitability, and just learning how to run a trucking business. Because what'll happen is eventually, rates will get better, freight rates will get better, markets always come around, everything is just cyclical. So if you use this opportunity, if you use this time as an opportunity to educate yourself, once the market starts to increase, you're already set up, you already have the knowledge to get things going. Now, hopefully this video was beneficial. If you guys found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you have any questions or comments, I encourage you guys to leave comments below if you want to share your thoughts on the matter. Also, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Also, if you know anybody else who could benefit from this information, please share this video with them as well. Thanks again for watching.